Today our recipe is a chocolate sesame tart. It's a great recipe for Valentine's Day. First we're going to start by making the crust. In a pan on medium heat, melt your butter. This is a shortbread cookie crust, so it's quite easy to make and it comes out really well. So I'm swirling the butter as it melts and pouring it into a medium bowl. I wipe out the skillet with a paper towel and use that to grease my tart pan. I'm combining all of my dry ingredients in a small bowl. So I have salt, sugar, icing sugar, cornstarch. I add some vanilla to my melted butter. And then I'm going to combine everything together. First I use a whisk, and then when it gets too hard to mix, I switch to a spatula. The mix will be quite crumbly, but it's great for what we're using it for. So I have all of my crumbs now, and I'm going to start by lining the sides of the pan. So use your fingers to press the crust into the sides. It's alright if it looks a little bit messy at first, we'll tidy it up later. Now I'm using the rest of the crumbs on the bottom. First I press it with my fingers, but then I use the bottom of a measuring cup to tamp it down evenly. And I used a little extra flour just so it didn't stick to the measuring cup. I use a butter knife next to trim the top. You'll see that in a second. There we go. Getting rid of any crumbs. Now I use a fork and I dock the tart all over, which stops it from shrinking in the oven. I bake it at 375 for about 20 minutes until it's evenly brown. It will look something like this. The next part is the tahini caramel, which is our filling. First I'm pouring my sugar and my water into a medium pan, and I'm melting this together on a medium-high heat. So first it starts to bubble, then it starts to turn brown like this. To stop the caramel from cooking when you reach the right point, you add your cream and your butter. You can turn off the heat, but turn it back on if it starts to seize together. And it will all melt together into one even consistency. The last thing we're going to add is our tahini. The tahini adds a nice bitterness to the caramel, so it's not just sweet. I really like the combination. So we're pouring this into our cooled tart in an even layer, and we're going to sprinkle a little bit of mulled and salt on top, and it needs to chill in the fridge until it's firm. Meanwhile, you can toast your sesame seeds. I did this in a small skillet on medium-low heat until they were nice and brown, and set them aside. Now for some arts and crafts, I wanted a little heart on top of my tart made with sesame seeds. So I cut out a heart with parchment, and I'm going to set that on top after. We're going to make a chocolate ganache last. So we're going to boil some cream and pour it over our chocolate. And then we let the chocolate sit for about a minute before we stir it all together. And that's it. It's super easy to make and it looks amazing. We're going to pour that onto our cooled caramel tart and spread it in one even layer with an offset spatula, or you can use a butter knife if you don't have one. So if you want to do a sesame heart, you can use your parchment. I probably should have let it sit a bit more. But that's what it looks like when it's all cooled. The ganache has been set. And now we're going to remove the tart pan and cut into it. Ours had a removable bottom, which makes it super easy. crust is really crispy. It's amazing. You get the crispy crust, the caramel middle, and then the chocolatey top.